Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Fly. We're back with another Casting Angles with Mac Brown. Mac, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Marvin?
As always, just trying to stay out of trouble. And, it's kind of funny. We were talking before we started recording that, we're kind of in this transition period, kind of particularly if you're fly fishing for trout, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's been starting to cool down the last few days, we finally got a little rainfall yesterday, and then we got winds out of the northeast today, and that's bringing in some cool air. And I think we're like low 70s right now, which is nice for this time of year.
Yeah. But, as we said, it's been so hot for so long. It's going to take a while for the trout streams to kind of come back into shape, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were low, and we definitely got a lot more up in the park. Just the levels on the creeks. I was on the lake today and went up and checked out Forney Creek and Hazel Creek and Eagle Creek. And, the flows, you can see the water coloration from the rain. It rained a lot harder up high yesterday, I think, because it had a lot more tea color. And it was a lot higher elevation than what it's been, so that's a good sign. But it'll take several days. I mean, we had about a week and a half, I think, of record, like close to record highs, for this part of the country. So the water it'll take at least a week with this cooler temps to cool it back where it should be. But we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I guess folks should remember, too, it's going to get cool up high before it gets cool down low because the Tuck is a big body of water, holds a lot of thermal energy, right?
Oh, yeah. Like on the Tuckasegee, it'll take till October for that to cool down. It's still too hot down there, so it's about to get cool. It'll take a little while, though, for that.
Yeah, and so we were saying that, the smart thing to do is we're waiting for kind of trout fishing to come back is, we're also at the tail end of, kind of the best kind of warm water, topwater fishing we've got going, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on the lake definitely, like we motored around on Fontana about 3 hours a day, and I stopped and fished a few spots and few terrestrials and, panfish, bass. We got some bluegill, some nice crappie, just throwing the same kind of thing that I'd be throwing for trout, just beetles. And I threw a couple of inchworms, like the mops. I threw some of those unweighted, and all that worked. I thought, yeah, this is pretty happening down here. So that was a lot of fun. Went down with the family and just kind of motored around for 3 hours after that and looked around at the national park.
Yeah. And it's interesting, right? Because, the real trick, if you're a fly angler and you don't have a boat or you don't have a float tube is, as it starts to cool off, those fish are just not going to be up on the edges where it's easy for us to get to them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We saw them in a lot of places. There was places with debris. Like I fished a trash pile up on Nantahala, and the trash pile is just all the debris. How it gets all collected with logs and things from floods, and there's shade up underneath all that. So you can throw in a little pocket and then let it sink underneath the trash pile, just like they do in the salt water when there's, debris floating on top. There's a lot of fish and bait fish that hang right underneath it because it's shaded. And that produced some nice fish today for us too. So, yeah, you can find those kind of places. On the Little Tennessee has it, the Tuckasegee has it. Any of the rivers that feed the main body of water has, a trash pile of stuff, and it'd be mostly logs and debris floating. So that's a good tactic this time of year.
Yeah, it reminds me of fishing the foam pools in the back eddies out west.
Kind of similar, yeah. We didn't have the moving water as much like on the lake today, but yeah, that's the next best friend. And the other thing is the bridges. Of course, we fished under the trestle, the railroad trestle, out by Almond. The 28 bridge, like any of those bridges, there's a huge shade area where the highway goes across the top. So that's also always really effective, like when it's really bright, because the day was really sunny and bright. So anywhere you get shade like that, you'll also get fish congregate in there. So that was good fun for a change.
Yeah, always nice to get out on the water. And I know, as we kind of move into fall that, you've still got the guide stuff going on, even before, I guess, they start stocking DH in early October. But you've got, you've got a casting school, and I know you've got some travel and some other stuff going on too, right?
Yeah, September, the weekends through September, yeah, pretty slammed with mainly revolving all around casting. There's the school the 14th and 15th, and there's a lot of float trips out on the Nantahala still during that time. And yeah, it's busy. September's busy for that transition time, and the tailwaters are still in pretty good shape too. I mean, there's people call last week. I had 4 or 5 calls, people asking me about going to the upper. I'm like, why would you go to the upper when you got the lower right below, with 54-degree water, and go fish 70-degree water on the upper? So it's just bad strategy, So then they ask, well, where would you go exactly? I'm like, doesn't matter where I'd go exactly. There's 7 miles wherever you can park. You know what I mean? Because the Nanny's fishing really well right now. So for the people that are wondering, like, maybe I'll go to North Carolina and, try the smart thing to do would be go to the tailwater. I'm positive there's not anything in our state that's running colder than the Nantahala right now. So if you wanted to trout fish, that's kind of a no-brainer for living in this area. That's one of the better places.
Yeah, and I would say if you wanted to go over the hill, probably go fish the Watauga, right?
Yeah, go up to Wilbur, put in at Wilbur. And the same deal up there. It's cold up near the dam. It's going to be a lot colder, staying up. That upper section will fish good right now. And they've got still plenty of water being released up there, just like Nantahala. I mean, there's also a lot of power demand with this heat, so it's not like they're holding water. They're releasing plenty of water because there's a lot of air conditioners and demand for kilowatts. So the tailwater's still putting out just the same amount of water as ever before. Now there's a release, Marvin, the end of the month. I just found out about the other day because we have a big group, like 22 people out there on the 29th. And that's the release. Saturday and Sunday, 28th and 29th is when they're releasing from the upper. So it's going to be a lot bigger water on the lower and the upper. So when they do that release, it's several thousand CFS extra water. So something to be aware of for those that are thinking about coming up and trying it during that time. It's probably better to go somewhere else because it's going to be pretty big water.
Yeah, and I know they're doing, I don't know if they've stopped this or not, but at least during the summer they were doing that recreational release, like from 1 to 6 on the Watauga too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that just makes it tough for people to get in and wait around. I mean, it's going to be tough because you can't really, like on the lower, you can't really stand back on the side, and when it's on like that and that much higher, it's pretty limiting. So I just probably better to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I would say even on the South Holston down lower, I mean, when they're generating with one turbine, that's a lot of water. I mean, not the smartest thing in the world to try to get out and wait in that.
That's some big water.
Yeah,
that can be pretty large for sure. And but yeah, it's kind of odd. I've been doing a lot of hiking in the morning at daylight, like about 6:15. Start in the dark and then do a loop. It takes me about 2 hours, and like even now, it's like I've been listening to that Merlin app a lot when I'm hiking, on the phone, and it's just really quiet. Like there's not a whole lot of, and there's still a lot of birds here, but like it's weird, man. This transition time going into hot summer, into fall season, it's been odd, you should hear all kinds of birds singing and Carolina wrens, and it's strange. Like you get up there walking for 2 whole hours and you don't even hear a single bird song, and it tells you that, yeah, we're in a transition because all the animals know it. Normally we see bear and deer and all kinds of stuff on every hike, and I haven't seen anything in 2 weeks up there, So there's pretty good evidence that that's a really unique ecosystem in the national park, in the Smokies, and to walk, 2 and 3 hours and not see any sign of anything tells you it's pretty dormant with a lot of animals right now too. They're in transition.
Yeah, and one last kind of tailwater tip for folks, I would encourage you, to always carry a waiting staff if you have one. But the other thing too is to pay attention, particularly if you're fishing well downstream of the release. When you get in the water, kind of mark, look at a rock and look at kind of where the water is, or a stick or something, and kind of pay attention to that. Because particularly on the South Holston, you can get on the wrong side of that river, and, it's pretty narrow. So you don't really kind of think about, wading out too far. And the next thing you know, you're stuck on the wrong side when the water comes up.
Oh, yeah. And another good trick, too, is looking for the white white bubbles. Like Nantahala or the Holston, all those rivers will it'll tell you it's coming up long before you start seeing it physically rise, and it will pick up a lot of little white, like in the foam lines, you'll start seeing those white bubbles increase like 100-fold. So, you know what I'm saying? So you're fishing a run, and there's no white bubbles, and all of a sudden there's 1,000 white bubbles flowing down the run you were fishing. It's time to get out, because that's always the case.
Yeah. Also, too, and you feel that cool breeze. It's not because it's cool; it's because the water's coming.
That's right. No, it is a good point, because even the Nantahala, to be on the wrong side when it's low in the morning and be stuck on the railroad track side, it's a pretty long walk back down to the Nantahala Outdoor Center to get out. Yeah,
it kind of changes the contours of your day, shall we say?
Yeah.
Before I let you go, I know you've been working really, really hard on your show schedule. You want to let folks know where they can find you on the road in early 2025?
Yeah, we're going to do the fly fishing shows. I think starting off up in Marlboro, and I think I'm doing all of them except Lancaster this next year, and then of course the one up in St. Paul, Twin Cities. There's a big show there at the end of March. I know I'm doing that one. There's a couple other ones that are in the works right now. So it's going to be pretty busy. I think after the first week in January, it'll be pretty much show season pretty much every week until the end of March. So we're looking forward to getting those started, Marvin.
Yeah, I'll see you in Denver and Atlanta. I don't know that I'm going to make it to any of the other ones.
Yeah, that'll be a good one, though. You picked a good one for sure. I like both those. Seem to be really big attendance, and they seem like they're still growing. They're really well attended.
Yeah, and so as we always tell folks, MacBrownFlyfish.com is the place to find all things Mac Brown, schools, guiding, appearances, and all that kind of good stuff. And Mac, I'll let you get on with your evening. And as I always say, folks, show it yourself to get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Mac.
Tight lines, Marvin.